There has been a significant change in how the token shop works, so in this video we're going to be discussing the top 10 Series 4 and 5 cards to spend your precious tokens on. Now, one thing's worth noting is that tokens are valuable, and you're going to see variants in the token shop, and I would suggest perhaps you save your tokens and not waste them on variants, because the cards are so much more valuable. You should consider saving your tokens, and that actually is going into our next slide here, because, you know, sometimes you might just be a card or two away from a meta-defining deck, and that's when you'll want to kind of plop down those sweet tokens, right? Especially as you unlock through the collector's caches. It's worth noting that refunds will never be given after nerfs, and a plan ahead, which is important when we discuss the card that I want you to kind of consider for planning ahead. Now, coming out on May 23rd is a potential meta-breaking card. The High Evolutionary is going to be a 4/7 that basically at the start of the game unlocks a secret ability for all cards with no abilities. Now, I'm bringing this up because listen, getting to 6,000 tokens is hard. And when a card is coming out in May, basically in May, which is over a month from now, I want you guys to know what's coming because this card might be meta defining and you might need some time to save. So this card is going to have Evolve Wasp, Misty Knight, Shocker, Cyclops, The Thing, Abomination, and Hulk, and perhaps anything else that comes out in the future. It is a really interesting card and it's going to create a whole new archetype similar to that of Galactus or Thanos. So I want to put it on your radar because if this is something you think you'd want to have, you know, you're going to have to save ahead because if you want to buy, say, a 3,000 token card like a Shuri or something like that, you're going to want 9,000 total on May 23rd, right? So I just wanted you to know that High Evolutionary might potentially be a card you want to save for going into the future. Now, this video is going to have cards that are only been released. So let's discuss the first, which is Knull. At Series 4, 3,000 tokens, I do think that Knull represents a very good card that synergizes extremely well with destroy-based archetypes. You see natural synergy with Yondu because any card that gets destroyed by Yondu is automatically added to the power level of Knull. You also have Venom, creating a destroy effect and then allowing you to once again buff up your Knull. Death is also great because anytime you destroy cards, Death's counter goes down, and Galactus is a fantastic play because if you can ramp out the Galactus, any card that you destroy actually gives you a turn 6 Knull play. So if you have a Electro, so you're able to play Galactus on turn 5 and turn 6 Knull, everything that's been destroyed allows you to essentially kind of absorb that value into Knull, while also usually getting you to play a free Death as well because you've destroyed so many cards on the board, right? So this is a very interesting card. I think that Knull is going to be one of those cards that is like consistently valuable through destroy archetypes. So if you are a destroy player and you have a lot of destroy based cards like all of these for instance, then it could be one that's definitely worth your time. Also note that we have an example deck down below that utilizes Knull to good effectiveness. Bast is an incredible Series 4 card that at 3,000 tokens really enables other cards in Marvel Snap. The interesting thing about Bast is setting all cards in your hand to 3 power really activates cards that have like really powerful abilities but low power levels to offset those abilities. Cards like Mr. Negative, Iron Man, and Mystique. And then of course someone like Adam Warlock, who has one of the most powerful abilities in the game considering how rare card draw is, but as a 2/0 can be difficult to play. As a 2/3, probably the best card in the game. So Bast has this capability of really buffing up cards that have enormously powerful abilities but low power levels. So Bast is extremely unique in that sense and can be very combo-centric in the right deck. Coming in at number 8 is Kang the Conqueror. Now, what's interesting about Kang is that it is a big bad. It should be remaining at Series 5 for the time being, and that makes sense because it does have a very powerful ability. Now, it's my opinion that the ability might not actually be good for the game because you have this anticlimactic moment where both players play on turn 6 and one of them plays Kang and everything rewinds. And like, I don't know if it's an actual good card for Marvel Snap, for instance. Like, its ability and how it kind of completely gives you a free snap is a little suspect in my opinion, but that's a whole other video. But regardless, it is an extremely powerful card. Being able to see your opponent's intentions is extremely powerful, especially in a game where you're playing at the same time, right, on a turn. The ability to basically snap for free is crazy. Those retreats your opponent, those are just cubes lost where you have no risk when playing Kang. It synergizes very well with arrows, so you can bait out Galactus, see what they're going to do, and then use the arrow to disrupt the Galactus. You can use Shang-Chi very effectively with Kang because you can understand where they're going to be playing. Galactus is great with Kang because you can sometimes be in a vulnerable board state with Galactus, right? You've destroyed everything, maybe you don't have the perfect follow-up, and you can see, do they have Shang-Chi, right? Because if you have initiative, you're going to be out in the open with your Knull or Death or whatever, right? Vision can be great for the mind games element of Kang. It's a very good deck in Galactus, and ultimately, like, I like Kang, but at the same time, sometimes I wonder about its impact on the actual metagame and the general just gameplay of Marvel Snap. And then we have Valkyrie, number 7. Valkyrie is one of my favorite cards in Marvel Snap, honestly. I love it. I've gotten to Infinite multiple times thanks to Valkyrie. And I think that it's one of those cards that people are sleeping on. And at 3,000 tokens, it's an incredible tech card. It does require some practice to play properly because it can be somewhat tricky to pull off, and it's one of those cards where like you don't want initiative, right? Kind of like Shang-Chi, where you want your opponent to reveal first and then you want to impact their lane. So there's a couple cards that really synergize well with Valkyrie. First of all, Thanos as a whole does, because Thanos has the Soul Stone, which works wonderfully with Valkyrie, because you play the Soul Stone, you play Valkyrie on top, everyone else gets the negative 1, so they become a 2 lane, and then you have all the 3s and win. Blue Marvel is excellent with Valkyrie because your cards just end up being a 4 power, so you drop all theirs to 3, and then you end up at 4, so you win the location. Ant-Man's great too because you get the +3 power on top of the +2 that it gets from the Valkyrie, provided it's a 4 lane kind of setup. Wasp is great too because you can play it in conjunction in the same location with Valkyrie on the same turn because it's free, but it gets bumped up to a 0-3. And finally, Cerebro and Mystique are great because Cerebro, everything's being reset to 3 power, which is kind of interesting. But also, Cerebro itself gets the +3, right? So does Mystique. So if you play Cerebro, Mystique, and then Valkyrie on top of them, not only do you drop down your opponent, but Cerebro and Mystique will get the plus bonuses from the Cerebro effect. So it's worth noting that Valkyrie is an extremely powerful tech card, although it's mostly played on turn 6 because of its kind of like Shang-Chi style effect. Silver Surfer is one of my favorite cards in Marvel Snap and has been for some time. And coming in at number 6, I think that it is a very good spot to pick up Silver Surfer. It is definitely weaker than it was prior. The +3 power turning into +2 definitely had an impact. However, what's worth noting is that the 3-cost cards themselves are extremely powerful cards. There's a lot of great effects. You have the Storm, you have the Juggernaut, which is a great combination as well. Sarah is an awesome combo piece for Silver Surfer based decks because it allows you to play 3 3-cost cards on turn 6. Brood is a great combo piece as well because naturally giving your +2 to Brood. You often play Brood with the Nova and the Killmonger combination as well, as you see in the example deck. Overall, Silver Surfer at 3,000 tokens is a very good card. It is an extremely unique archetype and one that's a ton of fun to play, and actually has a surprising amount of tech cards in it, allowing you to be extremely capable at all stages of the game. Coming in at number 5 is Zabu, and Zabu is an absolutely incredible card because anytime you can reduce the cost of something, especially in a card game, it's just truly remarkable, right? Zabu puts 4 costs on sale, and would you believe it, there's a lot of highly impactful 4 costs, including Mr. Negative, which is what the example deck is down below. Now, the nice thing about Zabu is that it provides you, specifically with the Mr. Negative deck, it allows you with the second opportunity to get Mr. Negative out a little early. You have the Psylocke and you have Zabu, both allowing you to get Mr. Negative out on turn 3. That's fantastic because the more negative cards you draw, the better your Mr. Negative play is going to be. Ultimately, though, Zabu is found in many other type of archetypes as well, specifically Darkhawk Control, which you see here, Absorbing Man, Shang-Chi, any card that's a 4 just loves Zabu as well. And you're also seeing Zabu being played very consistently with something like Sarah, which allows for insane turn 6 plays where these costs are insanely discounted and you can combo them with remarkable success. So Zabu is a card that is providing a lot of utility in Marvel Snap, and at 3,000 tokens is probably a very good value. Coming in at number 4 is Darkhawk, which is probably the biggest stat stick for the 4-drop slot in the game. Now, Darkhawk is very unique in the sense that by itself, if you don't really do anything for it, it's generally just a 4-4, which is super weak, right? Generally, our really high power 4s get to 4-10, so Darkhawk needs a little synergy. It needs a little help, and the way you do that is not necessarily with Zabu, because Zabu really helps you, get it out early, for instance, or lets you combo it on 6 with Mystique. However, what it is, it's the Korgs, it's the Rock Slide, it is the Black Widows, it's kind of like the support package that comes in with Darkhawk that ends up being so powerful that really allows you to kind of really have a high impact on the meta and making this a massive card as a 412, 414, or whatever, right? 410 is very achievable. Ultimately, you're also disrupting your opponent's deck with the Rock Slides and the Korgs, and you have a great card in Zabu allowing you to combo on turn 6 with the addition of Sarah. It's insane what you're capable of in this specific style deck list. Regardless, Darkhawk is a Series 4 card that provides a ton of utility and is generally a card that is going to be probably viable for the foreseeable future. It's already been nerfed once, and I can't see it getting nerfed again for the time being, so your tokens are probably well spent on something like Darkhawk. Coming in at 3 is Galactus. Now, Galactus is a big bad, so it's going to be remaining at 6,000 tokens for the time being. And what's worth noting here is that it's incredibly fun to play, and its impact is insane, but Galactus can be tricky because you don't want to choreograph the fact that you're playing Galactus itself. It can be a little frustrating for your opponent, so expect to get BM'd a little bit when you drop Galactus, but it is a very impactful card. It's also worth noting that Galactus creates its whole own archetype, where like this play of destroying the entire board is its own flavor, which is kind of a lot of fun. It's its own world ship, right? It synergizes extremely well with Electro and Wave, which helps you get it out early. You're also able to play Knull and Death if you destroy enough cards. Of course, Death can be free. Knull comes out on turn 6 if you've Electroed your Galactus out on turn 5. The example deck here that you see essentially utilizes a lot of cards to good effectiveness with Galactus. Kang be one of them. Kang really shines in Galactus lists. Dr. Octopus is great, especially if you have Electro Rail, because you can Dr. Octopus on turn 5, put all their cards into one location, and then you on turn 4 you Dr. Octopus. On turn 5 you Galactus and destroy all the cards you brought in, and then on turn 6 you can play Death and Knull, and all of a sudden you're like, they just can't do anything, right? So it's a pretty interesting play. Galactus can be extremely frustrating to play against, but hey, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the best value for yours. And notably is that Arrow got nerfed, so Arrow's not in every single deck as it was prior, which gives Galactus a little more room to breathe. So Galactus is finding kind of new kind of sustenance in the current meta because of the drop of Arrow, quite frankly. And then we got Thanos. Papa Thanos, once again, another big bat at 6,000 tokens. Now, it can be kind of interesting in the sense that, like, Thanos recently got nerfed a little bit, but the deck still works really well. The Quinjet nerf did hit it quite a bit, but it's still very viable, and we're still testing a lot of different Thanos decks. So expect some videos coming out in the future about, like, top-tier Thanos-based lists that are kind of really starting to push the envelope of what this archetype is capable of. Now, at number 2, I do like Thanos because as a big bat similar to Galactus, you can kind of confidently spend your tokens knowing that it won't just get discounted next week, so to speak, which can feel absolutely terrible with the other cards, right? So you inherently run less risk spending your tokens on Thanos and Galactus and even Kang, but Kang's worse than the other two, right? Because they just don't get dropped down. They're staying at 6,000 tokens. So, you know, you're less likely to have that buyer's remorse, which can feel so bad with considering how expensive the tokens are, right? So it does synergize wonderfully with Lockjaw, which is like the huge problem everyone had. Lockjaw, Leech is great because if you can Lockjaw the Leech with the cards, like you basically feed the stones into the Lockjaw, you're likely to pull out the Leech for free. Blue Marvel is great because you often have a very wide board state with Thanos, unless you're playing a destroy-based archetype. And so the stones get buffed up, which is great. And finally, because the stones draw cards, you often have an absolutely massive hand, which allows Devil Dinosaur just to basically be free real estate, honestly. You don't even need a card in there that, like, benefits Devil Dinosaur. Like, you don't need the White Queens, the Cables, the Sentinels, or whatever. Like, it's just because you're always drawing with the stones. Like, it just makes it so that, like, Thanos usually just is holding a huge hand, right? So that works really well for Devil Dinosaur, which is basically just free real estate. So Thanos at number 2, I think, is a great option in the current meta, despite the nerfs that have recently dropped. Coming in at number 1 is Shuri, and it actually breaks my heart because Shuri's one of those cards that's like, it's probably going to get nerfed, so, you know, just bear that in mind. They tried to touch up the kind of archetype a little bit by nerfing the Red Skull down a couple power, changing the ability ever so slightly. But realistically, Shuri is still running rampant right now. If you really want to rank up, the 3,000 tokens will likely get you to infinite running Shuri-based lists. An example deck list down below. There's also a Sauron one if you have that card as well, but I tried to, you know, keep other pool series 4 cards out of there. So realistically, the idea here is you are able to have so many different win conditions. You can just basically Shuri the Red Skull, Taskmaster that. You can skip the turn, drop She-Hulk, Taskmaster that. You can drop Vision, play Mind Games, then Taskmaster that. Like, there's so much value. Could you believe that doubling the card's power is a good ability? And that's exactly what Shuri does. So you are expecting Shuri to probably get nerfed, honestly. It is one of the best cards in the game right now, and its impact is truly remarkable. And it is a cube winner. It is an infinite getter. So if you are looking to rank, then it's probably your best token buy, but unfortunately expect it to get nerfed. And I mean, it's eventually going to drop down to pool 3 as well. So Shuri, that's my take on Shuri. Definitely worth buying if you want to rank. And down in the comments, guys, I want to hear your top 10. So please hit me with your top 10 that you feel like you would buy. Which cards are you prioritizing? Which ones are your favorite? Do you regret buying any cards? Let me know. I'd be really interested in seeing that discussion. I love the comment section. And thanks for watching, guys. I got another video right here, so check it out if you're interested in seeing more Marvel Snap content. We'll see you in the next one.